Today I'm talking with abstract artist Lissy Elliott. We talk about how she went from doing satirical political style cartoons, which is what her first exhibition was based on, also the experience of her first exhibition and how successful that was and how that encouraged her to take art further, and how she went from that style into abstract art. We talk about her first sales from that. We discuss the power of documenting your creative journey on social media, how she finds time to create and stay connected with her collectors, and how she was influenced very early on from a very famous Australian artist who lived just down the road from her, Hart, and how she's used him as inspiration, coming from no formal training to worldwide success.
Forking a road between thriving and starving artists is where I'm at. I can't eat lights, I need new heights. Just want to make a living, doing the work I love. Throw the notion of a starving artist out of the window. Take the elevator down to the ground floor and jump on it some more.
And I am very excited to have with me today someone who I've known for quite some time, but not as a visual artist, as a musician, Lissy Elliott. And I just wondered, welcome first of all, and I just wonder if you could kind of, how would you describe your art?
Well, these days it's abstract painting that I mostly do. I have done it for about, I've painted for about maybe, I can't remember, 6 or 8 years, I can't remember roughly that. And I also create little miniature dried paint sculptures as well on tiny little miniature, 10 by 10 canvases. So I had been drawing for a long time and then I switched over to painting. So abstracts mostly, and even those are always evolving. The style of the abstract is
there
changing.
Goes the cat. So I wonder how you went from because I haven't actually seen any of your cartoons, but I've discovered that you were creating cartoons in the 2000s-ish kind of political style cartoons. I wonder if you'd tell me about how you went from that kind of style and kind of merged over to abstract painting.
Yes, well, it's a slow evolution. The cartoons were really basic. They were like a child, like a kindy kid sort of situation, not like what you do. And they were like stick figures, and it sort of started with my angst at the political climate at the time. I was just so angry with what I was continuously seeing on the news, and really upset about our government and the connection to the US government, just going, oh, are you serious? I was just getting so frustrated. And at the time I was with the Dolls, a little country band, and I was doing little cartoons for, the invites or the posters or whatever for them. And so the very, childlike stick figures sort of situation, putting together, just squiggling cartoons about satirical cartoons about the government and what they were doing with the children overboard and the detention centres. It was sort of way back then, and they were very sarcastic and tongue-in-cheek and poking fun at Howard and Bush at the time. And we were frequenting the Wheat Chief in Theverton, the pub, and I think we were gigging there regularly. We had a residency there, and I asked Emily at the time, one of the owners at the time, I said to her, any chance I could have an exhibition at the Wheat? I'd noticed there were sort of rolling exhibitions there. And she said, oh, I didn't know you were an artist. I said, oh, I'm not really, but I want to have an exhibition. I don't know what made me think that was, feasible. But anyway, she said, "Oh, bring the cartoons and I'll have a look." So I just had them in a little, flip
Yeah.
book, and she said, "Oh, they're hilarious." Yep. And I said, "What
Mm.
I'll do is I'll blow them up. I'll get them printed. I'll blow them up and get them framed."
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did. So, that was back in, I think, 2004, so 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 21. And that was that. We had a little launch, and that sort of began me sort of thinking, wow, okay, that was relatively straightforward. I
Yeah.
I
And
could do this.
how did you find that experience of talking to people about your illustrations that you've never done before? I mean, obviously you would have been talking to people about your music at the Wheat Chief Hotel, but when they kind of discovered you're an artist as well, was that how was that received?
I think, I mean, there's a long history of imposter syndrome, of course.
Yeah,
I figured I mean, I'd always drawn and created, since time began, and
yeah,
it was just a sort of a natural extension of that. But I always just saw myself as squiggling, just doing
yeah,
little sketchy, childlike. That I wasn't sort of putting too much emphasis on it in terms of thinking that I was an artist as such. But
mm,
I think people just really enjoyed the sarcastic humour of
yeah.
that. I got lots of good feedback. I mean, I sold half of them. It was a wonderful sort of
Wow.
first response. And
Yeah,
that sort of ignited the fire to keep going and do more of
yeah,
it. Made me go, oh, right, this is possible. But I think everyone just really enjoyed the humour
yeah.
because it was really
Is
taking the
that the first
piss.
time you ever was that the first time you ever sold your artwork?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so. Yeah. And one of the
yeah.
big pieces sold for $600, and that was a huge
Wow.
honor. Like the
Yeah,
most of them were, I think, maybe $150 for a framed print or whatever. And
yeah.
even those selling was a huge thrill.
Wow.
But the
Yeah.
big piece I had literally drawn on an old post pull down.
Like a roller blind or something.
Yeah, but it was one of
Yeah.
those film projector
Oh,
blinds.
yeah, yeah. Projection screen. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I got it
Hmm.
from a Vinnie shop and
Yeah.
just drew rows and rows and rows and rows of chooks on that, and down the bottom was John Howard, and it was something like, the battery hens wondered why Howard didn't let the refugees out of the detention centre or something like
Yeah.
that. It was something.
Yeah.
And yeah, that
Oh, that.
sold, and to a person I didn't even know, and that was an even huger thrill
Yeah. Wow.
when it's not
Did,
friends and family.
Yeah, I mean that feels like your first real sale, doesn't it? When it's not
True,
to someone that
yeah,
you actually don't know. I mean, it's lovely to
yeah,
sell to people you know, but
yeah.
then do you have any way that you stay in contact with those people who have purchased your work from way back then, or not
Strangely,
really?
that person got in touch with me not long ago and said, "I've lost the John Howard. Would there be any chance of?" Because he was a cardboard cutout stuck
Right.
on, because I didn't want to stuff it up the whole piece. I'd done so many rows of chooks. I didn't want to mess it up with ruining the John Howard, so I just drew him on cardboard and stuck
Yeah.
him on. And she'd lost it in a move because she was able to roll up
Yeah.
the projector screen. And I said, "Oh, okay." So I drew her another one.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, so she got in touch. I think she
And
just found me on Instagram. But yeah, I
yeah.
do actually hear from some of the collectors. They sometimes send photos in, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
of the
Do you
work.
need to prompt that, or do they just volunteer it and send it
No,
in?
they mostly volunteer it. Sometimes I say to
Yeah.
them when I'm dropping it off, if there's it, oh, some people I have taken photos of them with it when there
Yeah.
was a lot, after an exhibition and I'm delivering lots and I actually remember. But the rest of the time, I say to them, "Oh, if you think of it and if you'd like to send in a photo of you with the artwork or the artwork in the space that it's going to finish. Please send one in, and I'll put it on my socials. And
Yeah.
sometimes I remember to say that, sometimes I don't.
Yeah, I think it's probably one, next to actually purchasing your artwork, I think it's possibly like the second best thing you can receive as an artist, I think, is actually
Oh,
seeing it in its home, where someone loves it, has purchased it, hung it up, or even, them with their art is
abs-
something, really special as an artist to follow that.
absolutely.
Yeah. So to all those collectors out there, if you purchase anyone's work, please take a photo of it in your house and, and send it to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
My cousin Amy, she commissioned a piece. It was like a black and white, it was a grey, spotty piece. And I wrote in tiny little letters, tiny little words, the names of all of her family members in it. And it's really
hmm
hard to find them. It's Where's Wally
Yeah, right.
situation, really hard to find them, but they're all in there. And she sent me a beautiful photo one night. She just texted it to me, and it was a photo of some of her family all looking at the painting with their hands behind their backs. All she's like, they're trying to find the names.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that is beautiful. I said, can I put that on my socials? That is divine. It was lovely
Yeah.
to see the painting in situ and
Yeah.
also everyone looking for the names. It was
Yeah.
extra special. So yeah, I posted that. And that was just a random, oh my God, look at these guys. They're looking for the names.
Yeah. That's
Um,
super cool.
yeah.
Well, with your abstract work, I noticed you've got a few different styles, which are all, you know, quite different in their own way. I'm just wondering if you want to describe, like, you've got the aerial views, you've got the confetti ones, and you've also got the prints, which are kind of like a repeating. I just fell in love with it because I love that stuff because I'm kind of do wallpapery stuff as well. But what you've done with the fish scales and the
Oh
books and the
yeah.
rugs and all of those kinds of things as well. Do you want to describe your kind of different styles that you've got?
Yeah, well, the prints are from my former lifetime.
hmm
They were sort of, I loved repetitive patterns, still do, but started back from the Chook era days, and
Yeah.
yeah, I just love things, repetitive patterns of everyday items, objects. I think that anything can look amazing if you sort of repeat it enough times.
hmm
And I used to don't anymore so much, but I used to draw just with felt pen on a piece of paper and do the repetitive designs, and then I would scan it and put it into Photoshop and drop the color in like
Okay.
that. And I
Yeah.
did that because you can get a flatter print, like
hmm
the colors flat and even tone,
Yeah.
but also you can choose from a gazillion colors. Whereas when I first started, I was hand coloring in myself, and not only did it
Yeah.
not look the right color, but you could see all the lines, and that's not the look I wanted. So
Yeah.
my brother-in-law taught me how to use Photoshop to drop in those color. That's the only thing I know how to do on Photoshop, and quite literally. And yeah, just did those. A lot of the prints I have for sale were from an exhibition called the Rainbow Collection. So the
hmm
rainbow theme is there, as well as the repetitive designs. So that was what I did when I was drawing. But then I had a break from that, and yeah, happened to see that Jackson Pollock movie. It was on Netflix. It was amazing,
Yeah.
and it just ignited that spark in me. I was like, oh my God, I just have to finger paint. It reminded
Yeah.
me of that childhood feeling of when you're in kindy, or how you're allowed to just do that with paint. And so I had this big canvas that I was going to put, just I don't know what I was going to do with it. I think it was for the kids or something. And I
Yeah.
got their acrylic paints, and I just started finger painting, like spot, 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 like jelly bean, looked like jelly beans all
hmm
over the canvas. And it was bliss. It was just blissful, childlike abandon, just a return to the fun of
Yeah.
creating instead of what it had become drawing, which felt like a chore. Or felt like I
Yeah.
had to sort of
Yeah.
turn it over because I was doing cards and prints for shops. And instead
Yeah.
of me sort of approaching them and saying, "Oh, would you like another order?" they'd say, "Okay, what's new? What do you? Is there anything new?" And be thinking, "Oh my God, I've only just done, I've
I
only
got to
just
come up with
finished
something
that series."
new.
Yes, and it's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
expensive, and it was just
Yeah.
it was getting really, I don't know, it was losing the joy for me. So that's why I
Yeah.
also had a break. And then when painting
Yeah.
came along, that brought the joy.
Yeah. Is that where your confetti series came in? Is that your actual
Abs-
finger? Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. That's
Cool.
why the
Yeah.
confetti, because I didn't know what I was doing, literally didn't know how to
Hmm.
paint and too nervous to use a paintbrush. I thought, oh, this is going to look like just ridiculous, ridiculous.
Hmm.
So I just did the confetti spots because I literally didn't know how to paint. So
Hmm.
that was a lovely, easy thing to do. And because the first painting that I did, it started off like jelly bean spots. I hung it on the kids' wall, looked great, loved it. And then I kept sneaking it off the wall and adding some stuff and putting it back up and sneak it off the wall and adding some stuff. And I think I just
Yeah.
enjoyed playing around because it was just for the kids' wall. It wasn't for anyone to
Yeah.
see. I
Yeah.
did document it on my phone, but the it was just for me and just for fun. So I add
Hmm.
layers and layers and layers, and then I started documenting that on Insta, and people were following the progress. And at each layer, people going, "That looks great," and that was really encouraging. So I kept going,
Mm.
making mistakes, um, and eventually, when put the finished product up, it sold that night, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, that lit the fire, like the chalks
Yeah.
with the drawing,
Yeah.
it lit the fire for me. And so I've gone from doing lots of fun confetti spots, um, uh, and then just starting to see I only follow artists on Instagram, so
Hmm.
started just thinking, oh, I wouldn't mind trying that. Oh, I wouldn't mind trying that. Screenshot every artwork I
Yeah.
see that I love and start trying to, I guess, emulate all different types, all different styles and playing around
Mm.
with them. And that's sort of, I guess, why my style has evolved and changed.
Mm. And I think it's interesting. Like, I think a lot of artists get overwhelmed and have a lot of the what would you call it, comparison issue when they're looking through Instagram. And it's cool to hear you actually being inspired by what you see and using it, as a bit of a, I don't know what you call it, a vision board or something like that, or some, and you go, oh, I like that, and I like what they're doing there, and
100%.
using it in a positive way. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I
Mm.
I I follow but like I said, only artists. I
Yeah.
love them and it brings me so much joy. I only see great things coming through my feed instead of things that are depressing or whatever or
Yeah.
negative. So yeah, every day the algorithm serves up new artists
Mm.
and I follow
Mm.
them all and just get so much inspiration from them.
Just a quick intermission to say that the Fork in the Road podcast has a Patreon as well, where you get a whole bunch of special things. You get an extended hour-long advert-free things, like you get to ask the podcast guests questions. You get a blog where I deep dive things which, might help make you successful and me successful, because I'm learning along the way too. You can also chat with me one-on-one and talk about your art business and make it work together. Back to the interview.
Finding that
From
time.
the obvious strains of having a family and working that in with your life and trying to find the groove of that, is there anything else that you've had difficulty with, that you've had to overcome as an artist?
Yeah, I think it is just time, literally. If I had a lot
Yeah.
of time,
Yeah.
I would create more and make more. But yeah,
Hmm.
you literally just have to pour. It's almost like putting the big, your family and work are the big stones in the jar, and I just pour
Mm.
the art in, like the liquid around the stones, just wherever it'll fit. I think time
Yeah.
because everything else seems to be okay. But
Yeah.
b-
Because I find with time and being an artist, it's kind of a weird thing for me because I feel guilty for making art because it
same,
takes me out of the family, blah blah blah. And I also feel guilty for not making art. Like I've got it,
same.
I've got it both ways. Like I just
Yeah,
don't know what all this guilt is about.
yeah.
But
You feel like you shouldn't be
yeah,
doing
it's
it.
yeah. It's like, there are so many jobs I should be doing right now, and yet I'm indulging in my silliness, which is art, but it's not really silliness. It's
No.
a job. And
Yeah.
and and for me, it's that big head shift of you know, because it's fun, doesn't mean that it can't be a job.
Yeah.
And also I've found to be a better person in general, I
Mm.
need to be creative. And it hasn't always been drawing for me. It's been writing and all kinds of things. But if I'm not being creative, it's I'm not as good a person as I can be. So
Mm.
that's my excuse for taking time out of the family or whatever, is because when I come back, I'm a better person when I come back because it's filled my cup. That's what I talk about a lot in parenting. Filling cups.
Absolutely.
Your cup has to be full to be able to, fill other cups.
It's so true. It's so true. And I don't think as parents we give ourselves permission to do that very often. Like you say, you feel terribly guilty if you do, but it is life giving. It does fill your cup, and I think like it releases the endorphins. You As soon as I start painting, I feel so happy, and it is like a
Mm,
smoke break. It is. You do feel it does let you feel that relaxation and that going into that Zen space. I feel, I've said
mm,
before, I feel like myself. When I'm painting, it's the only time I truly feel like myself. I can remember who I
hmm.
am. So, yeah, it is lovely to remember to
Yeah. It,
try not to feel too guilty for doing it.
yeah. It's kind of like a meditation in a way. It's just you're connecting with your creativity. I'm sure there's some science behind how that's actually good for you. But
100%, yeah.
I mean, there must be a reason since we've been doing it since, as long as we have been.
Yeah.
Um,
And to your
mm,
point about sort of feeling better afterwards, I always feel a bit stressed when if we're ever going away or going on holidays and I'm not sort of I know I won't be able to paint. I think to myself, oh God. It's almost like having to detox and
yeah.
not have that, even if I don't, even
Yeah. Yeah.
just sort of thinking, oh, I'm going to be away from the paints and that's a bit
Yeah.
depressing. What will I do? How will I not, how will I go not
Yeah.
creating?
That's
It's
what I
always,
found interesting about your comment before, is that the family was away at a beach house. And for you, you came back and had and had several days. Like you were probably in bliss because you get to spend time in your head, being creative, making creative work,
listening
and
to music that no one's telling me to turn
yeah,
off.
yeah. And you think,
I,
but you could be at a beach house, but this is like, as artists, that is our beach house, isn't it? Like it's a place to go
100%.
to.
Oh, just, yeah, not having to look after anyone for a few days. Amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So whereabouts are you think you're going to take your work? Because you seem to get to a point where you experiment and then you come up with a new series and you move on. Do you ever go back to those old styles, or do you just keep moving on and the old styles are the old styles?
Yeah, I think I just keep moving on. The only reason I return to them are commissions. So then I have to
Hmm.
remember how I did them. So for the current
Yeah,
commission, I'm
right.
having to try and remember what I did for the aerials. I'm like, ooh, but luckily I've documented the process in on the socials. So refer back to them and go, all right, what did the first layer look like? How did I get that? It's handy to be able to refer back to
Mm,
those photos. So I am thinking of the current commission to maybe incorporate the newer style of
Hmm.
intuitive, like more. It's way more messy than the
Hmm.
abstracts. The abstracts were quite neat because I was literally putting the paint down with my finger, and that created a geometrically sort of sound shape. Whereas what I'm currently doing is way more sort of messy style. So I am thinking
Hmm.
of with this current commission. I'm thinking of creating an abstract that's more. Oh, sorry, aerial, that's a bit more messy than it has been in the
Right.
past. So combining the current and the past. But if that
Hmm.
doesn't work, I'll just return to how I did do them. But no, I'm really excited about this new style. So I think hopefully I'll stay with that for a while until I see
Hmm.
other bright, shiny things on Insta and get
Yeah.
inspired by
Yeah.
those. Yeah. But I know I haven't, I've barely started this new style. So I think I'll stay with this for a while.
Yeah. And I feel like I'd be remiss if it mentions on most of your bios about living down the road from Australian icon Pro Hart, and how
Oh,
and how that influenced your well, it may have influenced you back then, and then you came back to it. Was he cruising down the road in his hand painted Rolls Royce? Or-
yeah, no, we didn't
or-
actually see him in the street that much, but
yeah,
we saw. I sat across from him at a wedding once. We were only kids,
yeah.
and he was across, the table from us at a wedding, and we were running around the tables, being bored. And I think Mum, I think he was signing all of our little name cards. He was doing
Mm,
drawings for the kids. Mum said, "Go and get a picture from him." So we went up, lined up with the other kids, and got him to. He drew a dragonfly. I think it was a dragon.
oh
Yeah,
wow.
he's famous for those on my name card at the wedding reception.
Yeah, cool.
But we didn't see him that often. You mostly saw him on
Mm,
TV, but he was
yeah.
literally up the street. And I
Mm,
think, yeah, like I've said in the other stuff, knowing, because I didn't go to a formal art school, knowing that he was self-taught has always just stayed with me. I've thought, oh,
yeah.
look, it's as simple as that. If he can do it, without going to art school, I can do it without going to art school. Not saying that I'm going to, be as
Yeah.
internationally renowned as him, but it's nice
Mm,
knowing that you can. It's
yeah.
the whole you can't be
It's
what you can't see.
yeah, it's an inspiration, isn't it? Like, I mean, I didn't really put two and two together back then as a kid growing up. I don't know, I think I was fed the starving artist kind of thing. If you want to be an artist, you need to be an architect or an architect. And there's nothing else. And yet our world is surrounded by art. So I don't know how I bought into that and how I
Oh,
thought
with
I
the
needed to get
Australian
a
cult.
regular job because um, I didn't get back into art to drawing because my drawing is like kids' drawing because I literally stopped when I was a kid and I came back to it when I was about 40 or a bit after 40.
Yeah.
And and because I thought, oh, it's fine for kids' books. But thinking back, like I just, and it made me look, I remembered an advert for Pro Hard. He did the Stainmaster carpets.
Oh,
And,
Mr.
and,
Hart.
oh, Mr. Hart, what a mess. And, and as a kid, like I would have been, I don't know, 15 or something like that. And they were on TV all the time. But to see that, was just a little bit mind blowing as a kid. Like he made a dragonfly out of food. He got like the body of this dragonfly out of spaghetti bolognese and slopped down on his belly and dragged himself
That's
along on
right.
his belly
Yep.
and like a cape that he kicks for the eye and stuff like that. And I just thought
Yes.
that was a real kind of moment for me. It really stuck in my head. Like I remembered as soon as you mentioned Pro Hard, it was just so vivid. And but
Mm.
um, he definitely is a thriving artist in that sense, where he just found his thing and
Yeah. He was very.
without any training, and just it's very inspiring. Yeah.
I agree. And he too did. you know, that not having to, like I went back when I was visiting mum and dad a year or two ago, went and had a look through his gallery. It's very different now to how it was like 20, 25 years ago. But he, I looking through all of his different phases of his art's quite interesting too. And that again, confirmed to me that it's okay to not stick to the one style. He had many different styles, and a lot of them were really criticised. He had one with a series of masks, and they're sort of representing the miners of the town and the huge union conflicts that were going on. And I think those they look like almost like the Ned Kelly masks, but big eyes and noses and mouths and stuff. And yeah, they are incredibly powerful in how they depict the pain of the miners and the conditions for them in town, underground. And yet they were, it's got write-ups of them and how badly they were criticised, and how, you know, much the art world hated them and thought he was just trying to be something he wasn't, and blah blah blah. And even that inspired me to go, okay, people are going to criticize you, you can branch out and do whatever you like, and keep creating and keep that sort of creative spark alive, without having to feel like you have to stay in your lane. And people are going to criticize you, and just do it anyway, just keep doing it anyway. So those are the other different ways he inspires me. If you ever go to Broken Hill, go and have a look at his gallery. They have a really great video running, like a doco about his life running, that you can sit down and watch, and that features those ads that you were talking about.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And it's excellent to see them again. I remember seeing them too. They were huge, weren't they? Those ads.
Yeah. They're on TV all the time.
And they've really stuck in our minds. They've become iconic. But yeah, and I'll never forget. I went, I think first year uni, went and had a look at his art gallery for the first time down the road, and he was still alive then, and I remember looking around, because there's 2 stories, and I remember looking around going, is this right? There's old masters in here. Like there was Monets and Renoirs, and I was just like, this is a dusty old town. What's going on? All these incredible, beautiful stuff. Where did he get them from? I went back home and said to Dad, how would he have got a Renoir? Like, what the hell? And Dad said, I don't know, maybe that he did swaps with galleries, international. Right. I don't know. Maybe I doubt he could have afforded them. Who knows? I'm sure he was very rich, but, he had so many of them, and Dad said maybe they were sort of lesser known pieces from those great masters that were sort of swaps, or who knows, but it was incredible. And when we went back a few years ago, they weren't there anymore, and we asked at the reception sort of what happened to all of the old masters paintings, and they said that after he died, there was a sort of a big review of his collection, and basically the insurance was going to be skyrocketing. They, because of the infrastructure of the building, they had to update the heating and cooling to make sure that they're all at the right temperature. There had to be sort of a perspex panel in front of everything. They had to update the gallery, and it was going to be unaffordable to do that. So I don't know where they are now, but they're not on the walls anymore. It's all of his stuff, and a lot of his but it's still amazing to go and have a look at.
Yeah, and who would have thought Broken Hill, hey? And here you are out of Broken Hill as well, following in footsteps.
That's it. It's it's quite
awesome.
surreal, but it's been a slow burn, and I wouldn't have ever imagined that I could do this.
Yeah, it's amazing and inspiring. Inspires me.
Great, thank you. I'm glad. That's great. It's nice to share the inspiration, because I draw it from everywhere as well.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you so much, Lissy. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you.
We'll hang around afterwards, but I'll end the recording now. And thank you so much. If you ever got anything coming up, let me know and you want to talk about, that'd be great.
Fab. Thanks so much, and thanks for
Have
having
you
me.
have you got anything you want to promo at all? So you're on
Oh,
Instagram and you're on Facebook, and
yes.
you've got a website of your own now.
Yes, that's
Mm.
lissyelliott.com.au, I think. And my
Yep.
Insta and Facebook handles are Lissy Elliott Creations. And it's
Yep.
Elliott is double L, double T.
Yep.
That
Yep.
always.
And not Missy Elliott either.
No. Rhyming, but different kind of artist.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you so much for listening to the Fork in the Road podcast or watching the Fork in the Road podcast. For those people watching on Patreon, we also have it as a video on Spotify and YouTube. If you like the idea of chatting with artists, talking about how you go from starving to thriving, how you become a successful artist, whatever that means to you, whatever a thriving artist means. If you like this kind of thing, you can support the podcast in many ways. Apart from becoming a Patreon, you can just share it with your friends, or you could leave a review on iTunes. I think iTunes do review. Whoever does reviews, if you look in your podcast channel, if it allows you to do a review, or if you're watching on YouTube, please comment, please like, and I won't be one of those podcasts that go, you got to give a 5-star review. If there's something about the podcast you don't like, let me know. Write it in the comments and see if I can, tweak it a little bit to make it work better for everybody. But yeah, 5-star review would be pretty awesome. But anyway, check you next time.